Today we have episode 8 Cybersecurity Measures in Digital Transformation. Welcome, Jazz. Good to have you back.
Thanks. Yeah, glad to be back.
Great. So let's dive in. For environmental impact, the question for today is what is the environmental cost of cybersecurity infrastructure? I see a very interesting topic because of internet boom lately. I mean, internet has been there for a couple of decades, but it is really exponentially grown up for the last 5, 6 years or so, especially post-COVID. And cybersecurity has been more crazy than ever. It's even like more than a full-time job for anyone in this domain. Cybersecurity is highly demanding job right now. I am seeing a lot of recs are being opened across all organizations for cybersecurity positions. New services are being launched, and there are new names in the industry as well for identity management, for firewall, service models, and all those things. So I really feel like it's really needed. It is highly needed because of data privacy, compliance requirements, data protection. People are crazy right now. Every website has that pop-up show up on the first visit for cookies and everything. So everything is being tracked right now. And in the back end, to accommodate all that data and processing, it needs constant hardware upgrades, leading to, of course, increased electronic waste, because as we had been talking about MarTech a lot lately in these episodes, that we are always forward looking. So we are always increasing the services to use. We are always subscribing more than optimizing the existing ones. So it ends up increasing electronic waste as well, because a lot of services are being subscribed and they all are running on heavy duty hardware, especially in this area of security. If anything goes wrong, it can go very crazy. Some time ago, there was a news about CrowdStrike of software went wrong. It was a small mistake at a developer end to deploy the index file. I think it's just a definition of their security rules. Something went wrong at a very small mistake, but it actually stop the half of the world, because CrowdStrike is being used everywhere. It's all over the globe, and a lot of hotels cancellation happened because of data's not working. Flights got cancelled. It was all over the place. It was chaos for a couple of days. And then when it started working, as I said, it was a small mistake, but again, the cost was very high. I don't have much details how CrowdStrike managed the post fix reaction from industry of it, but I'm talking about that little mistake was very expensive for the company. That is why cybersecurity is very critical lately. We are talking about environmental cost of cybersecurity in the digital transformation. So I would discuss some of the basic things, like every level of the companies can accommodate and afford to be secure. I have my own website running on a very simple CMS, and I had some plugins installed. I'm talking about just like one very small website, have a couple plugins installed to avoid DDoS attacks, to avoid spam from the form fills, to avoid any unnecessary cookies being created, and a couple more use cases, like any standard basic thing. Okay. But I had been like receiving a lot of like updates, notifications to upgrade my plugin version, to install these plugins, these new plugins to be more compliant and secure. There are a lot of services and systems working hard to keep me updated because I was using free services. So a little extra cost actually helped me on this front by subscribing to a service, and then it is making my life much easier and managing security for me. So it takes care of like all those typical cybersecurity risks. So it also helps me avoiding to build my own security policy. I signed up with with this new service, and I can share more details if you DM me. But again, that's a life-saving decision. I think it was a little bit of subscription, but it helped a lot. So, and also instead of using 5 different services means instead of using much more hardware in the back end from those services, now I'm relying on one, and I can also use the leveraged directory of security rules. So, I mean, we can make such decisions by consolidating of our cybersecurity requirements to little number of vendors. When it goes to the large organization, it grows exponentially. So I think at this point, choosing the right vendors, choosing the right security policies, and focusing on the sustainability focused vendors is good to do. I read somewhere like data centers globally contribute to 1% of global electricity demand, with cybersecurity processes significantly adding to this load. What does that mean? Cybersecurity needs very heavyweight computers to always keep running and to always fight against the hackers by against those like all those attempts to break down the system. Lastly, I would mention the modern technology and the modern areas of the technology, blockchain, digital currency, Bitcoin. They're very resource heavy, especially. Although, like DeepSeek is telling us a little bit of different story, but for the last few years, we are being educated as like all these technologies are very resource intensive, and in that case, we have to make an environmental trade-off to the secure networks, because blockchain is very good on the security aspect because of its model, but it needs to improve on the resource side. Yeah, what do you think, Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I believe there is such a thing as so-called green cybersecurity practices as well that companies can look at to reduce their own carbon footprint as well as waste. Because I think we waste, we know it can come from outdated electronic waste such as old hardware, firewall servers used to support cybersecurity measures, although they are like in the cloud, but they're still powered by data centers, which are still servers, like physical servers that we see at the end of the day. Just that they are off your premise. And then now, if we are looking at Gen AI powered cybersecurity, it requires even more processing power, which then, of course, like you point out, it consumes more energy, as it could potentially wear out your servers even faster, which means that you need to replace your servers, which then, go back to the vicious cycle of contributing to the waste that I mentioned. So then I think with people looking now at increasingly faster processing speeds, they want to support their blockchain, they want to support digital currencies, Bitcoin, they want to support just even faster generation of answers, of tasks, especially when we look at the agentic AI flow. And then I think people start talking about quantum computing as well. And quantum computing actually requires even much more energy sources. So then that becomes like a chase for energy. And the question then goes back to what are some more sustainable energy sources and processing efficiencies to support this without destroying the environment, So on one hand, of course, there's always benefit as to how some of these AI structures can help in terms of cybersecurity. It can also help the environment. But on the flip side, it can also be detrimental. That's why then I think we need to move in parallel to look at more green practices across the board while we're chasing for speed as well as power. Yeah, that's what I think.
Great. Yeah. So it is tough to find a good balance between cyber security implementation, um, because of privacy and all those regulations, and sustainability. Because the primary foundation on the security side, because these are all like service oriented, these are all and mostly cloud based. They use heavy computers in the backend, and heavy computers uses high energy. So it's a little complicated, but definitely there, as I mentioned, like in earlier, like also like Hitachi has VSP enterprise class computer, which is very high um, on the sustainability score, Energy Star rated, things like that, and that's like heavy load computer, very high class. So Things like that can help to find a good balance between heavy processes and the sustainability aspect. Okay, with that, let's move on to our financial implication of digital transformation question. That is, how do cybersecurity investments protect against financial losses? Financial losses, it's been happening, seen some news about it. Cybersecurity is not just an expense, it's an investment actually, and a critical financial safeguard that prevents multi-million dollar losses and operational disruptions. Because regulatory fines are very high, even from GDPR when it was launched about 7 8 years ago, and like it was mandate to have all global organizations to be GDPR compliant, and then even a single violation of data discrepancy on the privacy compromise was a multi-million dollar like kind of an expense or fine. So we all got very highly alert, like especially from global organizations, to have things like that implemented correctly on time. So um, at the same time, enhancing customer trust helps, because when you are compliant to these privacy policies, it builds trust with your customers and your business get better and resilient, and it saves cost of any error, because you are very careful about it. You get customer trust means you get more business for customers, so it helps overall. It's a good investment. Investing in security saves millions in potential losses. One aspect is definitely you save from losses and losing business. On the other side, if you are good on the reputation with security, for example, Apple has been um, very well recognized on the privacy and data security of their users, and that builds their brand value a lot. On top of that, every year their sales increase, because all of those loyal customers trust Apple because of their strict security policies and data processing rules. Cybersecurity investments reduce the risk of data breaches, avoiding regulatory fines, legal fees, and reputational damage. Of course, we talked about it, and um, it is worth spending. As I mentioned, like even to my website, having a little subscription on the securing my website is making my life much easier than before. I was like dealing with a lot of notifications. Now I'm only getting notifications that okay, we are at low risk. So it really is very helpful, and especially if there is any processing alert, it gives me a lot of information, more than I should know, to keep me updated that okay, where should I pay focus. Even like on the other side, if anything goes wrong with one user's data, or hackers take over the website, put some weird information on the website, and things like ransomware. They can shut down your operations for days or weeks. Again, like you can put your website back with some um, ransom, or you can have your backup in place. Um, yeah, there is another story. I know that friend who's working with some organization. I'll keep the name anonymous for now, but like, yeah, they got taken over by ransomware. Okay, asking for millions of dollars to release their digital properties, but they were very resilient. They were smart, so they had their backups, and they were able. I mean, it took time, it took efforts. It was like a very like firefighting kind of a situation for them for a few days, but without even paying a penny, they were able to recover their systems and put everything up like within a couple of days. Again, there are different different angles you can look at security, but ransomware is complicated. Um, Dark web really is very smart, so uh, that leads to loss of not just revenue, but even recovery cost is super high. And also organizations with advanced threat detection systems see up to 30% lower insurance premiums. That's the other angle to look at it. If you are less risk prone, insurance companies also trust your business more than others. So it helps lowering those costs as well. And compliance to different regulations like GDPR and CCP, as I mentioned, helps build trust with customers. And strong data management policy, a strong privacy policies, and disclosing that to your customers and users online publicly really helps not just build trust, grow on business, but it reduces your cost and risk of paying a lot of dollars in penalties. That's my take. What about you, Jess?
Then there are a lot of implications for sure. Like at my end in Asia, I think the scam landscape, the scam cases are getting more serious. The flip side of, I think, digital payments, which is quite embraced and adopted in across of Asia, it's has a flip side of it, which is phishing and of course scammers preying on the elderly to even like the everyday highly educated consumers. So we have phishing scams, financial scams, we have job scams, it's never ending. And it's definitely challenging for a lot of the institutions, the companies to keep up as they need to get almost as creative as the scammers on a daily basis to predict the scenarios, what they will do. Some of them even, of course, they pose as like government officials. They even pretend that you are. They know that you're being scammed and they're trying to help you. So that's how creative they get. So then everybody kind of needs to take precautions in that sense. And I even heard of like crypto hacking as a serious issue now because crypto is on the rise again. People are trading very actively. So there have been cases where the scammers hacked into crypto platform. Don't know how because it's supposed to be Web3, it's supposed to be blockchain, it's supposed to be safe, but they can manage to hack through and then they actually steal the currencies and those are lost forever. It's really hard to recover, but perhaps even harder to recover than actually the traditional kind of money sitting with banks in that sense. So for sure, I mean, I think in such cases, prevention is always better than cure, and recovery in such instances is always more expensive than precaution in the long term. So for sure, I think it has. There's no question about it. Companies need to invest in cybersecurity. You just cannot take a break from it. There's no such thing as BAU. I think when it comes to preventing scams and protecting your security, especially now with everything going digital. So we need all your guardrails. You need standard protocols, and you need continuous revisiting of your measures and fine tuning as you go along. And of course, you also need people who would be able to almost pre anticipate or something or what the scammers will be doing next. So there are cases where companies even hire ex scammers to sit in their team to help because it takes one to know one. I guess that's the principle of why they do it. And then it seems to have worked well as well for such companies. Yeah.
Right. I like the phrase like recovery is always expensive than your precautions.
Mm.
Yeah, that is to say like prevention is better than cure. Like we learned
Yeah.
in our young school, the prevention is better than cure. So I
Mm.
also like as a mentor, I tell my team members, my colleagues that like we all learn by our mistakes, right? So, I mean, it's regardless of cybersecurity, but it's applicable in general practice in personal and professional lives. What I mean by saying this is like we all learn from our mistakes. We are human, we make mistakes, that's okay. But if we learn from our mistakes, that's ideal. If we learn from other people's mistakes, you're smart. At least we should learn by other people's mistakes first. Then we are smarter than others, but at least we should learn from our own mistakes in the end. And if we keep repeating mistakes, that's a problem. That's a different problem to address. So similarly here, cybersecurity mistakes are very, very expensive. Rather, we should learn before we make it. All right. I mean, it was just like it's just like you reminded me on this one. So yeah, I wanted to discuss that. Let's move on to operational efficiency. In what ways do robust cybersecurity protocols prevent operational disruptions? I would talk about automation here again. So we had been emphasizing on automating operations as much as possible. And cybersecurity is like 24/7 activity. You sleep or not, but like your systems should be secure. I mean, you are looking at your radar, you're looking at your dashboards or not. You're looking at alerts coming to you or not. You should still be uh, relying on systems that are working for you. So I would say, like, to avoid from like any typical cyber attacks like DDoS, ransomware, or API breaches that can cripple your operation. You should always have as much as automation in place to work for you that can have robust cloud security. You can have real-time monitoring and notification system for you, and automated failovers if things go super wrong that can help prevent costly downtime. Downtime is super expensive. Small businesses, medium or large, it, for everyone because of this competition today. Uh, you name a business, there are a lot of competitors on it. And you think about an idea, it's already implemented somewhere. So yeah, so downtime is very expensive. So having a resiliency in place, having a failover in place, having good notification system in place, it all needs automation. And cloud technology have make it very simple for us today. AWS, Google, Oracle, Microsoft, like all these cloud systems are very smart and they have hundreds of services on our disposal, and like they do very good job on load balancing and failover and like having the system very secure. I like the term introduced by Amazon of well-architected framework. It has 6 pillars, and those all 6 pillars I try to apply not just on the cloud implementation, but even on other aspects of my professional work as well. So similarly here, I'll talk about SaaS companies. They operate on a multi-tenant architecture. It's like cloud concept, meaning one security breach can impact multiple customers. Imagine a data center is hacked, right? And there are hundreds of thousands of customers' data sitting on the data center, or like even if like just a little rack is or a computer is hacked, still like it's a multi-tenant. A lot of customers are at risk. It's not. It's very expensive. And end-to-end encryption, a good identity management, having a zero trust policies on your safeguard with customer data. Um, I mean, these are a lot of options available. Companies can make decisions and determination based on their priorities and budget, like what are those minimum viable security and like a good coverage they need to have. It should be automated as much as possible and focus on compliance, of course. Focus on good vendors, of course. Good vendors also focus on the larger mission of sustainability. Salesforce, for example, they enforce very strict data segmentation and encryption, preventing cross-tenant vulnerabilities. What does that mean? So they group by nature of data and nature of encryption rules and security elements to host their tenants and mm, and control the rules on top of that. It's a smart strategy and anybody can adopt it. When it comes to finance, banks and financial institutions, insurance, stockbrokers, they are the prime targets of cyber criminals who exploit weak security measures to commit fraud. They are the primary, actually. Yeah, it's true. Banks and financial institutions where the money sit are the focus area for hackers. 2 years ago, US experienced almost $9 billion in fraud related losses with bank fraud and identity theft among top crimes. The report says that. Okay. So and very basic security layers before heading into the system sometimes help. And it's been seen also there are very basic mistakes people do on their passwords on, and they don't do multi-factor authentication, they don't use advanced level of authentication like biometrics to access their systems. It's funny. Most of system administrators few years ago, until few years ago, like who I come across, and I myself was a victim. Um,
Mm.
that we used to set passwords at admin at 123, and that's very common password all across.
Oh,
Okay, for our systems, for admin access, and this is easily guessable by hackers and spoil the system. So yeah, but these days multi-factor authentication, biometrics, and even like AI have a very smart, a lot of smart tools to detect any suspicious activity on your systems and can alert you before things happen. So
mm.
right now we are at a prime time of most of technologies available to us to operationalize our processes, our business in a very smart way to have a strong foundation, strong security foundation to our business. What do you say?
Yeah. I think the case of you sharing that the password, I think we've all been guilty of it. But there's even instances here where a lot of people use our, they call it our, maybe in the US side, it's your security, social security number. But for our end, it's what we call like our national identity number. They use that as a password. I don't know why. Maybe they find that because of all these numbers, how can somebody guess it, right? There's no way. And then there was this case where our all our national identity numbers were accidentally published on a public a government platform, and then around the same time, a lot of people started getting scam calls as well. Um, so I think at the end of the day, it's really we need to take this kind of responsibility in our own hands. I know Google does a great job of having this built in where they will help you to suggest like a randomized kind of password as well that you can choose to use to when you set up accounts. So I believe more and more of these cloud platform players and the tech providers will do the same. But then again, when we become overly reliant on such methods and we start saving it all in the cloud as well, like I have the habit as well, like saving whatever created password that I used to generate through an app or whatever, use just saving it on Chrome. But then again, when we look at it, how safe is it really? If people do manage to kind of break into um, our platform, be it like the cloud platform, then a lot of our passwords actually can be leaked. So then I guess maybe at the end of the day, we really do need to think of a proper way to create to store these passwords. Yeah. Short of putting it down on paper, lock up in a drawer, which is what like our parents do, right? They think that's the safest way to store any banking PIN numbers. Yeah. So I think
Don't
in terms of
that one.
yeah, like operational efficiencies and things like that, we really for at a company level, we need to look at a good preemptive and preventive kind of a crisis management framework. Be it from monitoring all the way to escalation to management as well as recovery. I believe it should be a hygiene practice, but I won't be surprised if not all companies have it currently, especially if you're an SME. I don't think it will occur to you to have that in place. Yeah, but if you're like a financial institution, it's almost like a requirement. It's a regulatory requirement, so they usually will have something like that. And then companies should also look at having like cybersecurity dry runs or testing similar to how we do like fire alarm testing. Similar to disaster testing as well, because I think all this testing is will help us to kind of regularly prevent as well as review and assess our readiness and readiness to adjust to the changing scenarios of the real world, which kind of change. almost on a daily or even monthly basis. So we can't just have a protocol and then just call it good and get it locked away and then just maybe test it once a year or once every few years. But it's important that everybody across the organization is aware that you have this protocol in place. So communications internally is equally important to make sure that everybody is aware, that everybody's on board, and everybody knows what to do when something happens. Yeah, so it's like a shared responsibility across the organization if you want it to work operationally. Yeah.
True. The shared responsibility, leadership involvement, and focus together as well. Yeah, true. I
Mm.
agree. Okay, so with that, let's move on to our customer experience topic with the question: how does ensuring data security build customer trust? It is obvious. Higher customer trust built on various factors. Customer relies on your brand, your customers' data is secure. I mentioned about Apple's example. Apple's commitment to user privacy has really strengthened their customer trust, and of course, it led to high retention rates. I myself is an Apple loyal customer. I've always been using Apple phones, and I really like the way how they notify us on the security policies and updates, and how they give us like access to our own data, and how we can control our data being shared to third party apps. And more than that, like how Apple have like a standard policy to use our data across even in their own systems. So uh, it is again like coming to the point, like it is all about trust. And like customers, and obviously as I mentioned, like I myself is a loyal customer with Apple. Like, so customers are more likely to stay loyal to brands with strong security policies, who have less financial disputes on the security aspect, and it also helps like reduce customer churn. This is the key, like cybersecurity, good policy, good reputation, good data security track definitely help build customer trust. Data breaches, on the other side, not only cause financial losses, but also uh, lose customer confidence, and that, of course, impacts the brand issues and brand reputation in the industry. So, and competitors really get advantage from that. Um, a popular store Target, they had a data breach a while ago, and that led to 46% drop in their profits due to lost customer trust. The data breaches again are high risk, just not on the financial aspect, even from future profits or revenue because of loss of customers trust. Customers churn go high after certain mistakes. So there is a more reason for businesses to focus on cybersecurity, um, to stay in the business, to improve on their automation and operations, to stay up and or fail over smartly and quickly, and then also to control their cost factor from potential losses because of security issues. How about it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's fundamental. Security and experience as well as trust, because I think ultimately, as humans, trust is can be easily broken, especially if your relationship with the company is more on the professional level, right? It's like a business level. So it's almost hygiene as well, and customers expect that as bare minimal. Don't you don't even need to talk about all the bells and whistles, all the incentives and providing. For example, like as a bank, as somebody that's safekeeping somebody's assets, somebody's money. If you cannot even keep that safe, then whatever else that you're saying and they are providing are all just nice to have. They're all just very nice icing on the cake. It's good to look at, maybe tasty, but then actually, if you don't even have the base fundamental ingredients, which is like a cybersecurity, which is part of it, done right, then yeah, the trust is broken and they will just leave and abandon that relationship. So there, I think cybersecurity should be a core part of any company's value proposition as well, to build trust, to earn trust, to maintain and retain trust. And I think I do agree. Apple does a great job at demonstrating this commitment, more so than some of the other providers. And I think consumers are more and more, they value such commitment. Apple even have like a campaign around it, which I think is very smart. Personally, I'm not an Apple fan per se, but seeing that kind of like had at one point tempted me to switch to switch from Android to Apple, but in the end I didn't. But I was actually really impressed by their commitment, taking all this
Yeah.
very seriously. Yeah. And then with Gen AI, I think even more so, because you can easily have a lot of data be leaked, but then you need to see what kind of guardrails you have as well to make sure that we are not leaking the customer data unintentionally when feeding all of these onto the platform itself.
You mentioned cybersecurity should be a core part of the value prop of business. I am noticing a lot of companies have chief data officer, chief information officer roles in the top execs, but still not all organizations have it. So what does that mean really? They are not prioritizing data management or like information structure. If that is the case, if my assumption is right, then they are at risk of having some real cybersecurity issues. Yeah, I mean, your recommendation to have cybersecurity at the core of value prop is necessary here on the top strategic angle.
So,
okay, great. Good conversation, Jazz. Thank you for your time today, and we talk soon.
looking forward to it as usual.
Sure.
Thanks,
you.
Nav.